There will be a full house at Croke Park today, and no doubt some have travelled just on spec, hoping to get lucky and pick up a rare spare match ticket. This indeed is a bidding that has never been posted before on All-Ireland Hurling Final Day. A meeting between Galway and Waterford in the decider. Galway hoping to bridge a near 30-year gap since their last victory, while for Waterford the gap is even wider, getting close on 60 years now. This promises to be a final like no other, and it all begins at 3:30. Welcome to this day of days on Jones's Road, a day on which the 2017 Hurling Championship will be decided in a guaranteed welter of excitement, regardless of whichever way this one swings. Be prepared for high emotion. Well, we have been trying to keep the lads in studio calm and collected here today. Henry Shefflin, Liam Sheedy and Ger Lucknan. You're very welcome, gentlemen. Ger, I suppose, talking to the three of you earlier on, for you, you have the most experience, if you like, of this kind of occasion. Being there with Clare, the mid-90s, that bridging the ages, as I said earlier.
Yeah, you know, I've come to the All-Ireland since, and today is the first day you start casting your mind back to then, because it's such a similar occasion, you know. But I suppose the whole thing about that is, you know, it can become an albatross or it can become an inspiration, one or the other, you know, that you have the chance of breaching that gap. And like the way when I look back at it now, the way I see it is that, you know, the game was won, I think, not won, but we were in the right mental preparation about 3 weeks beforehand. Yes. We were inside training in Cusack Park one night, right? The crowd were in, and every time they get a score, there'd be a cheer, and the players must started showboating, you know. So we got him into the dressing room and we delivered the greatest hairdryer of treatment that you've ever heard.
I love the way it says we delivered.
That's the royal we. But and after that, we closed the gates, we went out, and all the concentration was on beating Offaly. They were the All-Ireland champions. They were after demolishing Kilkenny that year in the Leinster final. And if we were less than 100%, we were going to be eaten alive. So the whole thing was about coming out of Croke Park with your head on the ground after losing. That was one thing. And the other aspect of it was we were lucky to have such fantastic leaders, you know. Fellas who could take all the hype in their stride, laugh at it, have a bit of crack with it, enjoy it. But they knew the minute you came to training or the minute you stepped into the dressing room, it was business. And if Waterford and Galway can get that mentality, similar thing today, that balance right, if they get back, whichever one of those get that right, they'll be the winners. Because the last time here, Waterford got it totally wrong.
No doubt.
You know.
I was actually fascinated, lads, just watching our little film there earlier on, the first Sunday in September, and the three of you were watching it with a kind of, can I say it, a sense of wonder at the whole thing.
Yeah, but like the first Sunday, like it's a special day in our GA calendar. You know, I mean, you know, when you and today, like seeing the pairing that's there. I mean, I have never walked into Jones's Road at 12 o'clock and seen a crowd just start to, you know, out there, the talk of the match, the scramble for tickets. I never knew I had so many friends in Waterford and Galway until the last 3 weeks. But isn't it just fantastic? Because this game is made for new champions. You know, suppose we nearly thought we had a famine when I brought it back after 9 years. But this is on a completely different platform altogether. And like for one of these counties, they have no winter in 2017. Whichever one of them gets the hands on that cup going home this evening, it's just going to be a massive change and a massive moment for everyone involved, but most of all for the county. So I suppose that's what makes today so special.
It is, and funnily enough, what Liam was saying there, Henry, this has been on my plate for the last couple of weeks, because I think everybody knows I'm from Galway, but I was actually born in Waterford. My mother is a Waterford woman, so I've been getting it in stereo for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, no, I think we both touched on both of the speakers have touched on it already. Like, it's going to be the first. And no matter what you do in life, when you experience it for the first time, and as I was driving up this morning, I was thinking of winning my first All-Ireland. Because for all these players to get because, you know, we're very lucky to have achieved that, and the lads beside me here, and there is absolutely nothing like it, you know. And obviously, emotion is going to be the biggest thing we're going to see here today. For the losers, it's going to be very emotional because there's nothing worse than losing. But for the winners, their supporters, their families, and like the VT captured it, because the reason why we were laughing and giggling on, because it's so true. From a young age, you know, I remember going to All-Irelands, getting up with my father, sitting in behind some pillar in the Cusack stand. That's part of it. And all these players did that, got up on their father's shoulders, went to school, development squads, minor, under 21s. And what were they dreaming of, Michael? They were dreaming of winning an All-Irelands. And of course, they have to play in one to win one. but that's what makes it so intriguing. I think that's why it's captured the general public's imagination.
Totally. Yeah.
This idea. So, and you obviously can't lose with your mother being from Waterford and you being a Galway
It's worse than Matthew Morrissey.
Whatever happens, I love me county. All right, now, All-Ireland final day is, of course, a day that the whole country enjoys. But for people in Waterford and Galway, today is all about ending a long, long wait. Is today the fact that what's rare is wonderful, they say, but there's really this kind of hunger in both counties.
Absolutely, and what it means to win an All-Ireland medal. You know, so many people today saying they'd love to see Joe Canning win a medal, David Burke win a medal, Breek Welsh, Kevin Moore, players that have given huge service. And you know what brought that home to me was 3 weeks ago on the way up here to the semi-final, I was listening to a conversation between Tony Brown and Joe Dean. And I was absolutely stunned that Tony said that every time he went in with Munster or in the All-Stars, he felt lesser than the players with him because they had All-Ireland medal. Now, he's one of the greatest players of all time, but he hadn't won an All-Ireland medal.
You know, that stamp on his passport.
Exactly. I didn't bring him up. He regarded them on a higher rung of the ladder than him. Even though a lot of players that won All-Irelands weren't even in the same category as Tony. But he was brilliant to show the difference between finishing your career with an All-Ireland medal and finishing without it. You know, he played for 17 or 18 years.
More.
So it means so much. You know, have that medal at the end of your career. I think it brings that sense of fulfillment or closure to your career if you have the medal. So a group of these will have that today, and they'll have that feeling for the rest of their life.
They will, and in actual fact, on that point, that whole factor, let's say if Waterford win today, you know, and I was just thinking about this during the week, if you look back in recent years, not the distant past or anything, the Tony Browns, the Paul Flynns, the Milan, the Shannon, etc. and so forth, you know, the fellas who haven't won an All-Ireland.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you could even see it in John Milan and up for the match last night, you know, I mean, like, there's a massive expectation now that maybe this team will be the ones, because they have had wonderful teams, you know, over the course of the 2000s. Waterford have added so much to the hurling championship in numerous years, and like they've been done really well in terms of getting to semi-finals, but they've really struggled to jump the next hurdle. Now, likewise with Galway, you know, 11 of these guys started in 2015. There was 20 of them involved on All-Ireland final day. I think that experience will really, really help Galway, because there's nothing will prepare you for walking out onto the pitch on All-Ireland final day.
These pictures, Henry, are live from downstairs here in Croke Park. The Waterford team arriving, what is it, an hour and a quarter before the big match. Galway haven't arrived just yet.
Yeah, no, and for me personally, you know, when the bus pulls up and when it stops, it's all over. It's now. You know, you're here now. You get into the dressing room, you go to your spot. They'll have a routine. And it always disrupts me if someone new comes in and takes your spot. They want your routine, very much so. So you rush in there, make sure you get the spot right.
And of course, you're always looking at pictures like this and you see the teams arriving. You're looking for tension on faces.
Yeah, no matter what, there is going to be tension. Anyone says that because of the modern game and the scientific behind it, there's going to be no tension. Absolutely not. You're going to have lads full of nerves in there. You're going to have lads like Dan who will probably be hopping around the dressing room with his cap still on backwards. But you're going to have lads that are going to be quiet. I would imagine Breek Welsh should be very quiet and reserved in the dressing room. Kevin Moore, very quiet. But then you're going to have other characters going around. And you know what's very important in the dressing room? I found is that your backroom staff, because there's so much tension for the players and you're wondering what's going to take place. We had a great kit man, Rapper Cody, and we always got a bit of crack out.
You're right. You don't want that dead silence.
No, you were the balance at the beginning of it, and that's exactly it, because you're going to have lads very tense, you're going to have lads not turns, and lads hopping off the music and stuff, and have the right balance, and you will have a great sense. I'm sure these two men to my left would know better than anyone. Before you go out in the field, you probably knew our lads are right now today. So it's a very exciting time, though.
There's no doubt. Very exciting, very nervous. Well, you know, it seems fitting that we have ended up with this most novel of final pairings in a year that has provided no end of twists and turns. Now, I suppose most of the talk this year has been focused on tactics, Twitter and sweepers. So Donald Cusack has been taking a look at hurling past and present and how the game continues to evolve.
Christie, why does the Bishop not throw the ball in anymore? What happened to overhead pulling, ground hurling, long puck outs, psycho cornerbacks, two hands on the hurley, pull hard, he's no relative? Don't let the ambulance go till he has a full load. Like all sports, hurling changes. 25 years ago, today's wise senior managers met as young lads in an All-Ireland minor final. As a near contemporary of theirs, I share their blushes at how rudimentary some of our hurling was back then. Hurling has always seen changes, and maybe some of the old hurlers sitting on the ditch have always been vexed about it. What would they have tweeted when Mackie first went on his barrelling solo runs, when he handed the flame to Ring in 44, when the Outlaws opened Hell's Kitchen, when revolutions came, when legends wore different colours.
Dignan tearing through the heart of the Kilkenny defence on his left-hand side, and he puts it.
The heartbeat of the game has always been change and innovation. The dullest passages came when the game stagnated. Great eras have the shock of the new. Mad clearmen running up mountains until they were no longer whipping boys. Hugh Corkman looking up Patrick's Hill and inventing a running and possession game instead.
To the sides, people, take a look at that.
Then Kilkenny redefining defence, stopping the runners with merciless border patrols, dropping players back, confident that they had some of the greatest forwards ever working down at the business end.
Keep it into the full forward line as hard as ever you can. No missing.
25 years on, Derek McGrath and Michael O'Donoghue share another first Sunday in September. But it's not the same game they played as boys. Today's hurling is heads up. It's about short play and long, offloads and options, stick or twist, subtleties and changing up the pace. Sticks are shorter now and tight skills are more sublime. Players are thinking their way through games and doing things we've never seen before.
It's a miracle shot. It's gone over the bar.
Poor coaches imitate, good coaches innovate. Thinking is good. The winner today will have had to think hard as well as play hard. The heart and the pulse have always driven the rhythm of hurling, but the imagination can lay fine airs and sweet reels down on top of that. Hurling won't ever be a cross between the puck fodder and the strongest man at the fair competition that some people wish for. Let's not sell the game short by resisting change. For sure, in 25 years' time, McGrath and Donoghue will look at the footage of this weekend and wonder how the game has moved on. New revolutions will have wrong-footed everybody once again. That's a living game.
It's about time they stop talking about me.
He's the template though, the yardstick. So Christy, you don't get your wish. He said too that the best hurlers are with us now and the best hurlers are yet to come. He was right, always will be. Lads, I can't hear Christy spinning. Can you? But I can hear his fingers drumming impatiently. So let's shut up and let the game be the game.
The thoughts of Donlogue Cusack there, of course. Ger, a fair point. Let the game be the game. In actual fact, the quote we heard from Christy Ring, I heard that there recently for the first time, actually. And I thought that was fascinating, because he was asked as the player of his generation, who he kind of admired. He said,
and
the best is yet to come.
And the best is, and as we look at it now, probably the best is still yet to come. You know?
That's the point. Yes.
But like, I suppose I'm around longer than the lads here. All the innovations I've seen. Like in 1971, I played in the Harty final, 13 aside. And Canon Michael O'Brien, remember him?
Well, I do.
Used the goalies' puck outs to absolutely demolish us. You know, midfielders running off the ball, running onto the ball, collecting a diagonal ball across. Then you could take Father Tommy Maher from Kilkenny and the innovations he brought in Kilkenny, one of the great innovators of the game. You go on then to Selfall in the 80s with his three midfielders to beat Kilkenny below and Thurles. You know, you take Babs when he came in and the organisation, the professional approach he brought. You take the high intensity hurling of the 90s, all new things. You take the cock running game of the early 90s, you know, brilliant game. Fierce criticism of it. Kilkenny counteracted it. The midfielders drifting back, Henry and Eddie coming back into midfield, and the running game into the forwards. You had Liam here coming with his rotating forwards, and now you have a new system again. So it's part of the game. It evolves, it changes, but fundamentals stay the same. Great players still have great skill. They can win their own ball. They can win it in the air. They can win it in the ground. They can hit it left and right. That never changes, you know, and that's what great hurlers are. systems are only something that comes now and again, and they change and they pass, and there'll be a new system in a few years' time. But great hurlers will always be with us.
It was interesting. I met Sylvie Linan on Friday night. You know, we were talking to him, and obviously Sylvie was a star in the Galway setup when they were winning All-Irelands in the 80s. But he was saying that one of the hardest things he done, when you look at the level of detail that Derek McGrath is going in terms of timing it by the minute, Sylvie said that one of his biggest challenges was killing time before the match. And I was making the point that he didn't have much of a problem killing that, and they came into his corner when the match started. That's for sure. But you know, it's gone so meticulous now in terms of preparation. We've seen Galway the last day. You know, so some teams the bus comes in. Galway the last day as well. They walk around, they take it all in and come in. But really,
the reason the Galway lads, by the way, walk around as opposed to coming off the bus like we saw Waterford doing, is the Galway bus always parks around the back of the stadium. And I'm not sure what the story is there. Is the bus too big to come in or something like that?
The height is suitable, but in some instances some buses decide. But I think Micheál likes to let them walk around and just get their bearing. But the one thing that's Ger said that hasn't changed. These two teams have got to play the game that's in front of them today, and that is always the danger. If you ask me what concerned me in 09 and 10 when we were coming up to play Kilkenny, was that some guy would lose it in the band or lose it in the handshake. And it really is, you got to play the game in front of you, and the game will always be the game. But that's the challenge for both of these managers today, to get it coming from their training ground out into Croke Park on the biggest day of our calendar year.
I say, Henry, if Galway win this All-Ireland, by the time the Galway bus gets down to Galway again tomorrow evening, there will be no roof on it anyway.
No, exactly. I'd say there'd be open top. But going back to Donal Noakes' passage, I totally agree with him. But like, there's a lot of talk during the middle of the season. When we get to this part of the season, what we see is the best players perform at the top level. And that's what we're going to see today. And the best teams will always come. And you have to have the innovative managers. And to be honest, Kilkenny's game will have to probably change now with what's going on in place.
Yes,
well,
it will
change.
Yes, it will.
It will probably change. Small ways, just little small changes.
Sure.
But the nucleus, the best players in your county will play on the team, and your manager puts your stamp on it then. And that's why we have Waterford and Kilkenny here today.
And the last thing in my list, when I started off as management, I read one thing. Is that if you want to get the better of a superior opposition, the trick is not to play the same game as them, but to play an entirely different game. And really, that is the basis of all innovation.
And we can all guarantee you played some games. Time for us to take a quick break here on the programme.
What do we know, Pieball? So I'd say Aidan O'Brien or Jim Bulger or someone's going to get a call and say, give him a good horse. But yeah, sure, look at it. You can see the passion that's coming out through John and through the whole of Waterford. So, like, anyway, I don't know, but and if you drive through Waterford, like the flags and the colour and the way they've just approached this, I mean, they really are in bonus territory in a lot of ways. But now that they're here, the challenge for this group of players is to go and grab it by the scruff of the neck when it comes to half-tree.
I was down in Waterford last week talking to Derek McGrath, and John Milan was there, and Derek was slagging him. He was saying, really, John, you should have patented that, you know, that whole saying.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's got plenty of mileage, but it is true, and you can see like some great sports people have come out of Waterford, and you know, John was one of those. But that team that went before,
John O'Shea there, Irish international soccer player, of course, he played with John Milan.
Yeah, when he went to school, obviously De La Salle has a great affinity with today because of Derek and Kevin Moore and a lot of players have passed through it. But John O'Shea, I'd say, was a fine hurler. I would imagine he's a great soccer player. So, but they have great sports people down there. But the one thing you would always say about them is they're very passionate, and no more so than John Milan. And that's why you're going to see whichever team gets on top today, that passionate support from Waterford could be a driving factor from today. But it's
in actual fact, it was John Milan was telling me that John was a very good soccer player and that John O'Shea played with him.
Yeah, right. I'm sure Paul Flynn was a good soccer player.
Yes, he was young, of course. Yeah.
Which
I suppose that's natural, obviously.
It is natural, yeah, exactly. Yeah. But John did mention there, maybe it's up in a rocking horse he'd go around. Whereas, that is what, you know, that's the way we remember that Waterford team. Yeah. You know, holding the jersey. Some people didn't like it, but I thought that's great. You know? Yeah. It is that flamboyance, you know, and they played in a flamboyant way. I suppose now it's much more controlled. You know, I think that's the difference.
But maybe that's no harm.
That's not exactly. That's exactly what I'm going to say, Michael. Because that flamboyance and that emotion is great and all that, but it can get out of control. Whereas when you come here, they weren't a good Croke Park team. No matter what you say about that,
that's right. Yes.
They weren't. But this team have proven themselves in 2 semi-finals in Croke Park, and that bit more control. That's what you need, and a bit more calculation. Maybe that's what you need in big days like today.
Okay, obviously we're having the crack talking about this match here today. So at this point, let's go out and join Joanne Cantwell, and she is outside on Jones's Road.
Galway always produces a last scramble for tickets, but I've never seen anything like what is happening today. The number of people outside holding up signs saying tickets please, is like nothing I've ever seen before. Fortunately for Stephen Hunt, a Waterford man, and Aisling Connolly, formerly with Galway Camogie, they haven't had any such problems so far. But Stephen, you were saying that you've never been as nervous for anything in your life.
Yeah, nervous, exciting. Unfortunately, in the final, you only remember the winner, so we've waited since 08 to get here and haven't won it since 59, so hopefully we can get over the line today and take the monkey off our back.
You know what it's like making these breakthroughs, and you also know the pitfalls as well. If you look back,
Right, I think there's an air of expectation in Galway. Like normally, when you talk to Galway people in advance of an All-Ireland final, because it's been since '88, there's nearly a oh well, maybe not, but definitely there's a sense of it is their time and today is their day. That's what I sense from the Galway crowd outside. So definitely, I think it's building nicely for them for half three.
It is building nicely, and Gerlach now is just looking over his shoulder there. The minor match has just finished. Victory for Galway in that, Ger.
Yeah, and they won the 7-a-side yesterday. Beha won the 7-a-side yesterday.
That's right.
And I take the fella at the first of the treble, afterwards they'll have to win the minor. Terrific minor match here.
Yeah,
and
beating Cork in that.
And another Kenny, of course, coming to the fore in that.
Jake, nephew of.
A nephew of those, but a lot of great players in as well. High standard final there. Cork, I'd say, favourites coming into it, especially after that Munster final display, which is better. Sheehan and Turnbull, two brilliant corner forwards there. But Galway have dug it out, so everything. The great thing about your minor team there is the crowd are in and the crowd drive on the team. That happened to Clare in '97. They won the team. Actually, none of them made the seniors afterwards, but the very force of the crowd can drive them on to win it. So, good start to the day for Galway.
It is, and you were saying earlier on, you were talking about on a big day like this, for teams like your Clare team, for Waterford, for Galway, leaders have to stand up and be counted on a day like this. This is key to the whole thing.
Well, I think we all agree on that. Talking to Peter Finney early on, Kilkenny, they made it, Henry was the man who said that with Kilkenny. Always at the start of the game, 5 minutes gone on that. That's the last day they made. 6 minutes gone on, he point in it, he puts the ball over the bar. We'll come back to that in a minute. Now, who will they be looking for today to do that early on? Well, Kevin Moran is one. 2 points early on against, or a point early on against Kilkenny, 2 against Wexford, 2 more against Cork in the first 10 minutes. Brick Welsh has been brilliant in their last 3 games. 3 frees and a point against Wexford, this goal against Cork in the semi-final. Then what message does that send out all of this? Now here we have Barron, we have Gleeson, and we have Pádraig Mahoney involved. Now look at how much they rely on those 3. In the first 10 minutes, they combined to get that score. So everybody in the team feels our big men are going well. Everything is going our way this day. Now in the semi-final, I thought the Galway full forward line at the start of the game was won the game for Galway that. I know the finish was great and all that, but the full forward line scored 4 points in the first 12 minutes of that game. Conor Whelan, the first one there, then Conor Cooney, who has been brilliant for him. Now, he faded out of the game after that, but Cooney set the tone in that game, in that semi-final. And people forget it because of the finish. Now, what type of player are we looking for today? Now, look at this scenario here with Johnny McMahon's point. We talked about Clare coming in here after 83 years. We're playing against the All-Ireland champions. The All-Ireland champions start off brilliantly. They score 2 points early on. Clare are on the run. And next thing, you're looking for somebody to do something, to turn the tide. Shawnee puts the ball over the bar. That's the point that won the All-Ireland for Clare, because the crowd believed, the players believed, and it set doubt in Offaly's mind. That's what you've got to do.
Sure.
And you know what brought this to mind me during the week? I read a thing that we were talking about John Milan wrote. He said, Henry Shefflin popped over a wonder point early on, and the nature of his celebration suggested that this might be a long day for us. Now, it showed 2 things. It showed Waterford's mentality was totally wrong. Because when you're playing in All-Ireland, you have to have, like Sean Connery, in the film, when he said, if they put one of ours in the hospital, we put one of theirs in the morgue. No, I don't mean that literally.
I know what you mean.
He said, Henry scored the point. He should have said to himself, the next one to come down, I'll bury it in the net. That's the mentality you have got to have. So it showed the mentality then was totally wrong. But it's those leaders, it's the big men on the big day. That's the crucial thing today. And of course, I know the other things are important, Michael. Your plans and all that are important. But big men standing up, I'm sure everybody would agree with that.
And there is, we don't know who are going to be the key players today just yet, because that unfolds in its time. But you know what the expectation of the public are, Henry? The expectation was on you in your day. And there are fellas on obviously Joe Canning from Galway, I suppose Austin Gleeson, Waterford and so on.
Yeah, following on from Gerard, like these are the two talismans. This is your general public watching in. And All-Ireland final day is about delivering on the big day. And Joe Canny, look, sideline ball, 70 yards over the bar. You know, I just wanted to showcase this goal from the Leinster final. This is what this man can do, you know. Just the way, we'll see it in slow motion in a second. The ball comes down, he swivels, he's looked the other way, buried in the back of the net. And obviously, the last 20 minutes of the All-Ireland semi-final, when he didn't play well for the first 50, he stood up and delivered the winning score. So there's no doubt about it. He has everything in his locker to deliver. And I suppose the next man then, following on from that, is Austin Gleeson, only 22 years of age, current hurler of the year. Croke Park suits him. This is a couple of years ago. What Joe can do, Austin can do.